One of the things I get asked about most often is whether or not to include links in posts on LinkedIn, given that it's well known that this will tend to depress reach somewhat. My quick answer is it depends on the strategy behind that specific post. If you want the post to spread as widely as possible, it's probably generally better not to include a link. However, there are times when you absolutely do want to include a link because you want to send people to your sales page or to join your mailing list. But there is one place where you can absolutely add links to pretty much whatever you want, and it's very underutilized on LinkedIn. And that is what is known as the featured section. Many people don't even have this section activated, or they last looked at it and updated it many months ago. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the featured section and making some suggestions about the kinds of posts that you could and should be pinning there in order to offer a range of options to people visiting your profile to go and engage with you in different ways. I'm Rachel Roberts, and I help ELT, ESL and MFL freelancers like you develop a business model and marketing strategy so that you can work less and earn more. Join my Confident ELT Freelancer Collective membership, or dig in deeper and join me for 6 months on my small group program designed to flourish. Check the description for details and to book a call. So, what exactly is the featured section on LinkedIn? If you haven't even heard of it before, this is what it looks like. Unlike any links which you add to a post, these links won't disappear down the timeline. They're always available to anybody checking out your profile. You can add any posts that you've made on LinkedIn which have been particularly successful, though it's important to consider what we mean by success in this context. A post might have got lots of engagement, but it isn't necessarily the right thing that you want to put into your featured post section, even though that engagement will show on the post and will of course give you some social proof. What's important in selecting which posts to add to your featured section is 2 things. Firstly, how well does it help people to move along that buyer journey from first coming across you to being ready to work with you and knowing that you're the right person to help them. Secondly, ideally, does it have a link in the post which is going to help to bring people closer into your world? In other words, to join your mailing list. If the post does one or both of these things, then it could be a good choice. And if you're in the habit of regularly posting testimonials and client success stories, and if you're not, you should be, then that can also be a good choice for what post to pin to your featured section. You can also add a link to a LinkedIn newsletter here if that's something that you have or that you're considering setting up. A LinkedIn newsletter isn't as good as a mailing list, but it's still a pretty good way of enabling lots of people to see more of your content, which can then help them to make that decision about whether or not to work with you. Unlike a standard mailing list, you don't get to access the emails, which is an obvious disadvantage. But on the other hand, you are likely to get far more signups for a LinkedIn newsletter than you are for a standard mailing list. So far, we've talked about which of the posts that you've put onto LinkedIn already you should pin to the featured section. But where LinkedIn really comes into its own, and this is different from other platforms as well, the featured section doesn't just allow you to pin posts, it also allows you to link externally. In your profile, you only get one link, meaning that you may have to choose between sending people off to join your mailing list or encouraging people to book a call, or whatever else you want to make the first step that people take towards working with you. If you use the featured post correctly, you don't have to make that choice. You can do all of those things and more. If you have a podcast or a YouTube channel or a blog on your website, you should absolutely use the featured section to point people towards them. These are all places where people can binge on your content and really get to know you well and understand the breadth and depth of what you have to offer. This then really builds up their level of like-know trust. You can also add in any events that you're either running or that you're going to be appearing in. Just a word of caution here, if you add events, because these are obviously time limited, Make sure that you do go back and remove them from the featured section once they're over. Otherwise, the section will quickly start to look neglected and out of date, which is the last thing that you want. And last, but very much not least, you can, of course, also add direct links to your offers, whether that's a standalone landing page or a sales page on your website. This is likely to work better, I would say, for low-cost offers, such as maybe a power hour or a short digital course. But it can also work for your bigger offers if the person is at the right stage and ready to buy. When this video is finished, go to have a look at my LinkedIn profile and see what I've put in my featured posts. The link is in the video description. For everything that you put in the featured section, make sure that the link looks good. This can be one of the problems with pinning posts that you've previously posted on LinkedIn, because sometimes they don't translate so well to the featured section and you can only see part of the image, for example. So check that out. If it's an external link, you have the option of adding a thumbnail, and this can make it look really professional. The recommended dimensions for an image are around 1200 by 700 pixels. You can create a custom image size on Canva and then upload it to LinkedIn. And even when you've done all of this and your LinkedIn featured section is looking fantastic, a word of warning. It's almost never a case of build it and they will come. If you aren't generally using LinkedIn regularly to post and to comment and to interact, people are not going to be checking out your profile very often. So you need to combine this with a good overall LinkedIn strategy. But when you do that, it really can be the icing on the cake. In the next video coming up on your screen, I'm going to be taking you through 5 key steps to optimize your LinkedIn profile so it really works as hard for you as possible.